So, some things to think about at the start of today's lesson, which are to do with childhood. So, I want you to first of all think about what would you say is a definition for child? So, if you were asked to define child, what would you put down? How would you say that is different from being an adult? And then just looking at the pictures there of the child working in factories and of child soldiers, I'm calling them children in factories and child soldiers, but are these, in your view, children? So just write down your feelings on those three red box questions, please. Okay, so the title for today's lesson is How Far Have Families Become Child-Centred? Write that as a title, please, along with today's date. And we need to consider this question here. What is a child? So something for your glossary. Childhood refers to the stage in life where somebody is a child and behaves like a child. So we need to just jot down these bits and pieces here. Childhood is a social construct. Now remember, we've come across the word social construct before, and that is the idea of something that is constructed, built by the society it is in. Therefore, it is not the same thing across all cultures and across all time periods. So what it meant to be a child in the 1800s is perhaps different to what it means to be a child now in the UK. Equally, what it means to be a child in the UK is different perhaps to what it means to be a child in Angola, for example. So, childhood is a social construct. In Britain today, childhood is viewed as a stage of life where young people are protected from adult things. But in other countries across the world, children might be working or fighting in wars. And even in the past, childhood was different. Many children worked and made money rather than going to school. And we've got a sociologist there, Philippe Aries, who said that in the 1800s, childhood didn't exist. Children were actually just mini adults. Childhood as we see it today was not a thing. It did not exist. So jot those bits and pieces into your books, please. What I would like you to do now is look at these key events, key laws in the UK related to childhood, and put them into your books in chronological order. So in other words, in time order, with the earliest one first. You can either cut them out if you've managed to print off the PowerPoint, for example. You can cut them out and stick them into your books, or you can write them out. But let's go through them together. So before 1889, children could be treated however the parents wished, which included violence. In 1889, the first Children's Charter allowed the government and police to arrest anyone ill-treating a child, including their parents. In 1908, the Children Act was passed, establishing separate courts for young people, and also it was now within the law that there was such a thing as sexual abuse from family members. In 1918, the school leaving age was raised to 14, and state schools were made free for all. In 1948, there was another Children's Act which established a Children's Committee and made sure each local area had a children's officer to protect their rights. In 1972, the school leaving age was raised to 16, allowing all children to stay in school until they're 16. And indeed now, since 2015, people under 18 have to be doing some form of learning. It doesn't have to be formal school, could be, for example, within an apprenticeship scheme. So that's 1972. In 1978, the Protection of Children Act defined a child as a person under the age of 18. Before that, it had been 16. And in 1989, the Children's Act, which was the most important one, it's still one we're still working with today, gave every child the right to protection from abuse and exploitation. It argued that children were best looked after within their family. And it's this 1989 Children's Act that still informs the work of, for example, social care today. So ensure you've got all that jotted into your book, please. Finally, I want you just to consider these questions. I want you to consider whether you think the lives of children has improved, whether the life of all children have improved. If you're thinking that the lives of children has improved, does this relate to all children? And would you say that childhood in the UK is a positive part of life? And I do want you to give evidence for all your views on that. But I'd like you to spend some time, please, writing a couple of paragraphs of your feelings and your views and your opinions around those 3 questions. Thank you for listening.